Magandang araw kabayan, welcome to Today with Tatay Eko. Samahan niyo ako sa ilang minutong balitaktakan at pakikipanayam sa mga katulad nating migrante mula sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. Samahan niyo akong hanapin ang mabuti sa isang mundong balot ng pag-aalinlangan at hamon ng buhay sa pamamagitan ng paglalahad ng mga karanasan ng mga kapwa natin OFWs. There is goodness in this world that needs to be unraveled, and we just need to look at the right places. Join us as we meet regular people like you and me who are trying to find their place in this world and see goodness beyond the challenges of daily life as migrant workers scattered all over the globe. Ako si Tatay Eko at ito ang Today with Tatay Eko. Magandang araw mga kabayan, and help me to welcome our guest for today. He's involved in project management for a multinational financial corporation with a regional office in Singapore and is actually a nurse by training. We'll talk to him about that in a bit. He has been a migrant worker for about 6 years, and he's soon to be a father to a baby boy, and he plays badminton and goes trail biking. Friends, please welcome Mr. Ed Martin Siangyo. Hi, Ed.
Hi, Tatay Eko. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for saying yes to the podcast interview today.
Thank you.
Ang tagal ng reaction. Okay, anyway. So let's start with the interview for today. Maybe my first question would have to be, paano ka naging OFW and what pushed you to seek opportunities overseas?
The honest answer is I really didn't. I was happy with my career in Manila. I was working for a construction company there. There just came an opportunity. A former colleague from a different place that I used to work in sent me an email, and he told me that there's an opening here in Singapore, and if I'm interested. So that 1 minute decision to say, okay, let's give it a shot, that kind of snowballed into this 6 year career that I have now here in Singapore. So I didn't really, how should I say this? I didn't really seek it. It just really came up, and I just took the opportunity when it came along. So I wasn't really actively applying, going to websites, submitting my CVs. It just so happened that there was an opportunity and I grabbed it.
Wow, that's pretty cool because not all migrant workers actually go through that same thing.
I
Um,
know. Yeah.
yeah. Could you describe us your first year overseas as a migrant worker?
When coming here to Singapore, except for the extreme cleanliness and the organization and their crazy, awesome airport, it didn't really feel like I was overseas. The people here, the food, the culture, it was quite parallel to what we had in the Philippines. So it didn't really feel that much. It didn't really feel that heavy for me, or it didn't really feel that different. I had a really supportive I had quite a supportive Filipino community here in Singapore that I was in constant communication with in badminton and in church. As much as I want to give a colorful story of how difficult it was, actually it wasn't. I came to Singapore with only 30 Singapore dollars in my pocket.
Oh wow,
I
really?
was waiting I was waiting for my first check, for my paycheck to arrive, and these awesome blessing set of people who did nothing but support me because they said, they know how it felt to be they know how it felt to come to a foreign land for the first time, and they lent me money, they gave me tips, they gave me advice. I never really felt alone. The first year was not as uncomfortable as most people. I'm pretty sure that people hearing this story would already say that I'm quite lucky, but it's kind of true. I felt really lucky because I've heard the horror stories that most people had to go through just to have an opportunity like mine, and hindi ako dumaan dun eh. The reality was, a lot of people supported me and helped me to be where I am, and the adjustment that I only had to do was ang daming maanghang na pagkain dito. And I really grew up not eating spicy food, and here I had to get accustomed to eating really, really spicy food, and that's pretty much it. The culture, the environment, the work expectations, they were pretty much the same.
Is it any different now that you've been here for about 6 years as a migrant worker?
Significantly different, but not in the sense that most people would think. It's different because I got acclimatized to the culture, to the locals. I've got acclimatized to the work environment, the nuances in the work environment. They're not really that different, except for the fact that when you're a foreign worker, you're an immigrant worker, you will always be there will always be that fact, that contention that you are a visitor, you are an outsider. And going through 5 years of being a part of that minority in this country have made me accept certain behaviors, and it's made me accept my current position, the role that I play in their economy and the role that I play in the bigger organization. It's different because I would dare say that, and most Filipino migrant workers would feel this. Priorities will shift. When I came here in Singapore, the plan was, okay, I'm just a contract worker. I will save enough money, then I'll go back to the Philippines. I'm just gonna give it around 3 to 4 years, then afterwards, wala na, tama na. But as you go along and you start realizing that you can build stronger roots and can do more here in this foreign land, your the timeline of your plans get stretched. They get bigger, they get
Mhm.
longer.
Mm-mm.
So I met my wife while I met and got married. I met my wife and I got married while I was already here in Singapore. And um, the objectives that I had before in 2014 when I first came here is very different from my current objectives now that I'm about to build my family. And
Mm-mm.
I try to strive for the ultimate Filipino dream of being financial freedom or financially free.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So I guess that's the biggest change. That's the biggest difference. Mamumulat ang mata mo na mas marami ka pang pwedeng gawin, mas maraming oportunidad na kung gaano kasara yung isip mo nung unang dating mo sa unang pagdating mo sa ibang bansa na ito lang gagawin ko, itong gagawin ko, itong gagawin ko. It opens yourself into this big world that you never thought it's gonna happen to you. Something like that.
Ano sa palagay mo yung pinakamalaking challenge na kinaharap mo na sa buong karanasan mo bilang isang migrant worker?
Ang pinakamalaking challenge, okay, most Filipino migrant workers will relate to this, but biggest challenge is saying no. When
Mm.
you are a foreign worker, you have to learn to say no. And to our listeners out there, if you do come across an opportunity to work abroad, or not even work abroad, when you have the opportunity to be a significant breadwinner or a significant resource provider for your family, you need to learn to say no. When I came here, nakakasilaw. Lalo na dito sa atin sa Singapore, na gadgets are extremely cheap. Cell phones, laptops, TVs, say it, any electronic trinket that you could think of. It's very tempting to buy. And then, you will have relatives and friends na say, hey, Ed, baka pwedeng pabili ng ganito, pabili ng ganyan. And to say no to small requests like that, medyo masakit kasi may mga kamag-anak at kaibigan ka na magtatampo. And nakakasama ng loob actually, because nandun na yung masusumpatan mo sila na, bakit ikaw nag-abroad ka rin naman, bakit mo hinihingi sa akin? Or dati nung hindi naman ako nasa ibang bansa, hindi mo naman ako pinapansin. Ngayon, best friend mo na ako. So, yung mga situations like that. So, yun yung masasabi ko napakahirap na marami akong I've had a lot of fellow OFW friends and confidants who told me the same exact thing, na pag nagkaroon ka na ng significant opportunity to earn, dadami ang kamag-anak mo tsaka kaibigan mo. And to say no to those, mahirap, napakahirap, lalo na kung pamilya mo.
I understand where you're coming from. Sa mga pagkakataon na ganito na you're facing challenges at work or in the personal life, saan ka o kanino ka humuhugot ng lakas, to keep yourself doing what you're supposed to be doing?
Okay, 5 years ago, when I get tired and when I get depressed or I get bored, I do two things. I drink and I smoke. I give in to worldly uh, ways to escape. Naglalasing ako, magyosi ako, I go out, I go party. But on the latter years of my life, when I've realized that how pointless that is, the way that I cope right now is that number one, kapit ako sa Diyos. I pray, I read the scripture, I talk to my wife about my current problems. And number two is I try to step back and remember what are the objectives that I now have. Pag nakakasawa na and when things are not so good in the office or things are not really happening the way that you want them to be, I have to remind myself that 5 years ago, before having this opportunity that I did not run after, binigay lang ng buong buo ng Diyos sa akin, we were surviving. I was working in the Philippines, earning decently in the Philippines. I had no plans of going abroad, and yet God threw this opportunity. I have to remember that whether I have this opportunity or not, whether it's I have it now, next year, or it's gonna get taken away in the future, I have to remember that God has an ultimate purpose for everybody, and wag ako masyadong kumapit sa current situation, whether it's good or bad. That's pretty much it. I try my best not to be pessimistic, especially in current situations or in current circumstances. But God's been really good.
What lessons have you learned along the way? You've been around for about 6 years as a migrant worker. Are there any significant lessons that really stuck to you?
Tatay Eko, medyo mahaba-haba to, be ready.
Sige, we have time. Wag kang
All
mag-alala.
right. To our listeners, yes. To to the listeners of this podcast, guys, it's only been 6 years, and I would like to say na meron akong mga colleagues dito na they've been here 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. It's been an amazing journey for them na hindi ko ma-imagine sa sarili ko na nandito ako sa ibang bansa for that long. And they've been imparting a lot of lessons to me. And I've learned another set of them along the way. But the top five that I would like to share to the listeners and to you, Tatay Eko, right now is number one, everything is temporal. When you go abroad, when you are in OFW, you always you always have to have a mindset that sooner or later you will go home. There's a possibility that you will go home. The money that you're earning right now may not be there forever. So on that context, the lesson number one is you always need to prioritize saving for the future. Not iPads, not iPhones, not that car that you've always dreamed of, not that condo in Makati. Cash is king no matter what happens. Whether it's 1945 or it's year 2020, cash will always be king. That's number one. Number two, the golden ratio of managing your finances well is that 20% of your income immediately goes to savings, 20% immediately goes to investments, the rest goes to expenses. If you really want to have a budget for your leisure and entertainment, as much as possible, 10% lang. Number three is I would advise everyone to tithe, especially for the Christians. Christ himself in advocated tithing, whether you're Catholic or you're a born again Christian, it doesn't matter. All sects, all Christian sects encourage you to give freely and from your heart. And this is the only commandment that God wants you to test him on. So I really encourage you guys, ladies, all the listeners, that if you can tithe, please do. and watch how God's blessings will pour into your family. Number 4 is it's okay to say no. Going back to the lesson that I learned, the
Mm.
heaviest lesson that I learned, ang dami ko biglang kamag-anak. When people found out that I was in going to Singapore, wow, ang dami kong friends, ang dami kong mga pinsan na biglang suddenly they realized I exist. It's okay to say no to family, especially when you have your objectives in your life of what you want to achieve, how much money do you want to set aside for your financial freedom, and knowing the fact that you're not going to be an OFW forever. Number 5 is being an OFW. Tata Echo, this is just a perspective. Being an OFW, you don't do this or you don't choose this life dahil lang gusto mong kumita ng malaking pera. Being an OFW is an accelerator. I want to erase that notion from our listeners right now that gusto mo maging OFW kasi yayaman ka. No, that's not the case. I can tell you so many stories of OFWs across the board or across the world na pag-uwi nila sa Pilipinas, wala silang perang iuwi at yung pamilya nila nasunog na lahat ng pera. When you become an OFW, it is an accelerator. The honest truth about it right now is that when you become an immigrant worker, you are exposed to several or a whole lot of opportunities that will give you the chance to earn money that, let's face it, it will be very difficult to earn it in the Philippines. And with that opportunity, it's not like you're going to have that mindset na, okay, let's say I'm 28 right now and then I become an immigrant worker. Most people think na from the age of 28 until the age of 65 they're going to earn the same thing or higher forever and ever. They have that people have that tendency. When you choose to have the life when you choose to live the life of an OFW, you have to focus, you have to always remember, it's quite similar to item number 4. You always have to remember bakit ka umalis in the first place. You don't run after the money, or you don't run after just the money. You run after the learning opportunities, you run after your objectives, and you run after the fact that it's not going to last forever. You have to remember that. Being a migrant worker is not a forever story. That's it. Those are the 5 wisdoms that I can share right now. And well, kung may dadagdag pa akong isa, someone told me that less than 2% of the Filipino population is insured. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, it's very, very sad. And I would like to encourage our listeners and your fans, Tatay Echo, that you, as much as possible, get an insurance plan.
Yes, please do.
It's going to
Yes,
it's
please
gonna
do.
it's going to save your family. It's going to save yourself from a lot of headache. It's a gift not for yourself, but it's going to be a gift for your children and for your spouse.
Tama yan. Sa palagay mo ba, Ed, para sa lahat ba ang pagiging isang migrante?
No. I would say no.
Ang bilis ng sagot, ha?
I've been thinking about that question for quite some time now. When people go abroad, may mga pamangkin kasi ako tsaka mga pinsan na tinatanong yan na sa tingin niyo po ba dito okay lang na mag-abroad ako? Okay lang ba na ganito? Punta ako dito, punta ako dyan, tapos kikita ako ng pera, tapos yayaman ako. Ang naging immediate na impression sa akin is these kids think na pag naging OFW ka, instant yaman ka. And then when I ask them, ano ba yung trabahong plano mong kunin? Gusto ko maging waiter sa Saudi, or gusto kong maging construction or safety officer sa Aramco sa Saudi Arabia, or I go here, or punta rin akong Singapore. Sometimes ang immediate expectation is pag OFW equals maraming pera. OFW does not always necessarily mean that. Kung maia-atras ko ang panahon at masasabi ko sa kanila na mas maaga, if an opportunity in the Philippines strikes at you, or it strikes to you, or an opportunity comes to you, and it's actually sufficient, and that opportunity is sufficient for you to fulfill your objectives and your goals, wag ka nang umalis. Don't run after it. Wag mong ipilit na lumabas ng ibang bansa para lang sa pera. I have
Mhm.
seen people who have been far more successful than I am, and they never left the country. If they're going to say, eh, hindi naman ako kumikita, yung sahod ko naman, hindi naman ganun kalaki, paano mo nasabi yan? There are other financial instruments that they can use, that they can learn to understand so that they can have multiple income streams. Most people like you and me, pag OFW tayo, we're not allowed to do business here in Singapore. So ang sahod natin, yun lang ang income natin. Di ba,
Mhm.
Tatay ko?
Yeah.
For them in the Philippines, they actually have the golden opportunity na apart from working, they can invest in other instruments. They can do business. And if they really wanted to, they can live the life that they want. It's possible for them to live the life that they want even without becoming an immigrant worker. So to summarize all of that, it's really not for everybody, and the way that you decide if it's for you or if it's not is that take a good hard look and assess your current situation right now, if it is sufficient or if it's not. If it's not sufficient, are there other opportunities in the Philippines that you can consider for you to have the capital and the resources to do and live the life that you like? Kung talagang wala, that's the only time you might want to consider becoming an OFW.
Spoken like a true financial professional.
Yeah, hindi naman ako magiging plastic because if like in my story, hindi ko hiningi eh, bigla siyang dumating. You would be foolish if you immediately said no to opportunities like this. So to the listeners, pag kung may dumating na opportunity, go ahead, grab it. But always remember those 5 items that I mentioned, and the fact na you assess first. Tignan mo muna kung ano sitwasyon mo sa Pilipinas. Kung talagang it's not enough, then that's the only, I would say that that's the time for you to say, yeah, go ahead, sacrifice being with your family, lumayo ka, go in a foreign land, sleep in a dormitory, eat foreign food. There's quite a number of trade-offs that you will be shocked when you see it for the first time, and it will not, yung homesickness, yung being homesick, it's not something you just encounter on the first week or the first month of being an OFW. Homesickness will always be there hanggat wala ka sa bahay mo, hanggat wala ka sa loob ng bahay mo.
So maybe some parting words to our listeners out there, especially for those who say prepared na ako maging OFW. What would you like to say to them?
Well, first off, congratulations, guys. If you have that opportunity, it's a rare one, and I'm sure you must have thought it long and hard. The few things that I would impart with you as a fellow OFW is number one, always make sure that you have all of your documents handy. Number two, always know where the Philippine embassy is in wherever country you are in. Know the phone number, know the address, know contacts. Number three is get in touch with a Filipino community, or any community. Actually, it doesn't have to be Filipino, but establish a community wherever you are, whether it's for a sport, or it's for a church, or for any hobby. It doesn't matter, but having a good community that you can blow off steam and do some fellowship, you can establish a certain extent of fellowship with them. It's going to help you 100%. Number five, save, save. Kasi guys, I mean, I can't emphasize it. I cannot emphasize it. I cannot emphasize it enough na pag nasa ibang bansa na kayo, pag nandito na kayo sa Singapore or nasa Saudi kayo, kung lalo na sa Saudi, murang-mura lang ang mga gadget. Murang-mura lang ang toys, ang laptop, ang cellphone. That can wait. What is more important is that you save and get your insurance policies. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Wise words indeed, Ed. Maraming salamat for giving us your time today to join us for
Mm.
this podcast. We appreciate very much your time. Salamat, bro.
Thank you. Maraming salamat din for the opportunity to share. And I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm selling anything, but for anyone who have any questions, or for anyone who has any questions, just let them reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you for offering, Ed. And thank you very much for your time. I'm sure yung ating mga listeners maraming natutunan sa podcast interview natin ngayong hapon.
Well, I hope so.
Thank you very much, Ed, and we'll see you around.
Thank you. Thank you, Tatay Echo. See you around.
Maraming salamat sa ating guest, Mr. Ed Xianghyo. Congratulations in advance on your firstborn, and may your wife have a safe delivery. Bago po tayo magtapos, let me share with you a quote from famous philosopher Socrates. Contentment is natural wealth. Luxury is artificial poverty. Muli po ito si Tatay Echo na nagsasabing, remember, you can't change the day, but you can change your attitude towards it. So be someone's reason to smile today. This is Today with Tatay Echo.